Happy Friday. I usually use Fridays to review the week, see what we've done well, see what we haven't done well. Usually looking well looks like number of offers out, number of investors spoken to, whether we've paid back the capital that needs to be paid back on time and the necessary amount. All that type of stuff, relationships, networking, certain KPIs that we try and hit every week. Just those small habits that build up over time that I've spoken about in the other videos. And that's what we tend to use Friday for, just to make sure that all that is, we're on top of all of that. And also the professional services that we're dealing with. So a lot of solicitors and agents, architects sometimes if we're needing to keep on top of those guys. So we use a couple of hours on a Friday to work all of that, to make sure that everybody's on top of everything. And then also the deals that we've got going on, at what stage of the refurbishments are they, if we're doing any refurbishment work, or is it just if we're flipping it through the auction. Is everything ready? Has it been cleared out to go through the auction? Are the auctioneers ready to market that property? What else do we need to do to make that happen? We had a deal land in Telford a couple of days back, whereby we're just doing the project management of it. And you know, we charge about 10% on that project management, which is a snippet really compared to some of the work we do and some of the value that we provide there. I think these guys are going to be leasing the property to Serco, which is a government-backed company. I think a lot of it's to do with asylum seekers. So they lease the property from the landlord for, I think it's 5 years. I don't generally tend to deal with them, but the investors that we're using here, the investors that are using our services here, they're going to be using Serco to lease the property. It's a good solid investment for, you know, landlords who just want a hands-off investment, which is most, to be honest. Most people don't want to be dealing with tenants and everything all the time. So yeah, we're going to be project managing that. We take about 10% on top of the cost. So if the refurb is, say, I don't know, 50 grand, for example, we'll be taking 10% as a project management fee. It's 5,000. And these like little sums of money, they sort of keep you in business. You know, it's good for cash flow, because in this game, it's very capital intensive. The vast majority of the income that we get into our companies goes straight back out into another deal. So the saying of feast or famine is quite apt in this business. Always looking to reinvest and allow the compound effect to take hold. Sometimes that looks like 3 or 4 years. Sometimes that looks like 10 to 12 years. But in any business you're in, if you can stand that test of time, you can put the effort in over a longer period of time than most people are now willing to put in, you're already like miles ahead. And I say this to people who do some coaching with me. Very often it's more, well, it always is, to be honest, it's all mindset stuff. It just sometimes it's wrapped up around property or business or something. But usually it's actually just mindset, in all honesty. And the barrier to entry nowadays is so low, in my opinion. And that's because people are too impatient. That's one of the biggest hurdles that people can't overcome. Is that because we're in that get it now culture and the technological age whereby everything's done immediately, which brings along with it the related dopamine and immediate gratification. Those are the biggest hurdles now to entrepreneurs, I see. So if you can just break through that barrier and have a long-term mindset, obviously cutting short things that aren't going to work. You know, if you're listening to the signal that you're getting back that you know, you're not providing the value that you thought you were, of course you have to look at that. But most of the time it isn't that at all. It's just that you're not putting the effort in, the work in. You're not doing it for a long enough period of time. And that's like step one. And it's also important to have a degree of open-mindedness, because the speed at which things change nowadays, again with technology, but also everything that comes along with that, the short thinking culture that we're in, is how quickly everything moves means that you have to move with it, and something that you've never seen before, somebody or some company comes along and completely obliterates everything that we've known. You have to adapt to that quickly. So I imagine like a speedboat, and if you can be a speedboat, or your company reflects you being a speedboat, where you can move quickly in comparison to like a big ocean liner, who's, you might consider these big globalist type corporations that are just big and destroy everything in their path, but they're very slow moving, and that isn't the way of the world anymore. So I think in time those type of companies will die out, but and the small, independent, quick thinking, adaptive companies will take a lot of market share from these guys. I thought I'd go over a couple of bridging term sheets that we've had come through. So we're buying this property for 133,500. Okay, so if you look at this term sheet here, they're happy to lend on the valuation of the property. Now, we've told them it's worth 210, which I think's quite low. It's quite conservative. It's actually worth, in my opinion, probably about 220. So they've gone based on 210 as the conservative figure, and they're happy to lend. As you'll see there, the gross loan of 146,664. That's that figure there. With this lender, as with most bridging lenders nowadays, the interest is retained, which means it comes off the loan. So you have a gross loan amount there of 146,664 and 126 there. So there's about 20 grand's worth of interest, and that comes off the loan. The interest rate on this specific lender is 1.2% per month. 2.5 grand arrangement fee. And it breaks it down there. The total interest retained is 18,144. No monthly payments, no exit fee, and professional fee and legals. I've put down there at the bottom. You can see I've put £2,000 there. It's not going to be far away from that figure for the two. So I'll work out these figures. I'll work it all out, add them all up, and we come to a decision. Now, if you look at this sheet here, this lender will lend on the value of the property, but they also require a valuation, as does the other one. Some lenders are happy to do it on a desktop, but these guys' term sheet only is based on the purchase price. So the purchase price is 133,500 there. The first charge loan there, 93,450. That's a loan to value of 70%. Now, the loan here is 1.05%. The other lender was 1.2%. So this one, in theory, is cheaper, and it's a £981 per month, whereas the other one was higher than that, right? A lower arrangement fee, £500 lower arrangement fee. But there is an admin charge. Now, that admin charge does get refunded upon completion. So, it's to stop time wasters, to be honest. Now, the interest on this is retained again. So the interest on this one is £11,774.70, meaning a net loan figure of £79,310.30. And we're buying the property for £133,500. So if you do the math there, we're going to have to find around £55,000 to get in this deal. Whereas this one, we're not going to have to find nowhere near that much. We're only going to have to find about, well, if you put stamp duty on there, probably about 12 grand, something like that, including legals. So, as you can see, two very different term sheets there. Now, we haven't made our mind up which way we're going to go, because this company here, they will, as they have done in the past, they're very good. They will send a valuer out, and if the valuation of the property comes in a lot higher than the 133,500, that figure, then they will raise the value, ideally to this figure, 210 at least, and then lend 70% based on that figure. So if we can agree the 1.05% with the arrangement fee and the admin fee and everything on this lender, it will actually come in a lot cheaper than it will with this lender. bridging is about building relationships. It's not necessarily all about the rates, which is a mistake I see a lot of people make. And sometimes I make it myself. So I'll see like a 1.05% rate on one and 1.2% rate on another. And I'll automatically in my head think, oh, they are cheaper. But when you work out arrangement fees, broker fees, that sort of thing, very often that isn't the case. So you have to take into consideration all of the figures and work it out from there. Also, efficiency. So a lot of bridging lenders nowadays, they sort of pitch themselves as being very quick and efficient, but they're not. They're quite slow and as cumbersome as some of the mainstream lenders out there. So if you can find yourself and build a relationship with some good, quick funders, the rate is sometimes not as important as the speed and effectiveness and the legal process. How many questions, how many inquiries are they all going to ask? If you need the money within a week to 2 weeks, can they perform? Because most of them, from experience, can't do that. So, in my opinion, speed and efficiency is more important than rates.